You ever have one of those neighbors who treats your life like it's a find the hidden violation game, except you never signed up and the only prize is a migraine? Well, picture this. There's a woman standing at the edge of my yard, red-faced, hollering that my entire house is illegal and ought to be bulldozed, while I'm on my own porch, calmly waving a folder stuffed with every building permit known to man. Honestly, I half expected a film crew to pop out and say, "Smile. You're on HOA candid camera." Before you ask, no, I'm not exaggerating. This happened. My name's Rachel Torres. I'm 38. I design stuff from home. And until recently, I lived in a neighborhood so meticulously managed, you'd think the lawns got vacuumed nightly. Maple Ridge Estates, where the fences match, the houses match, and apparently, your soul is supposed to match too. Only the brochures forgot to mention Brenda Holloway, the queen bee of the HOA. And I don't mean queen bee in that southern, bless your heart kind of way. I mean the kind that measures your doormat with a tape measure and fines you for welcoming people the wrong way. First year living there, I racked up more violation notices than parking tickets in downtown Manhattan. Trash can visible for 12 hours after pickup. Violation. Blinds not the exact HOA-approved shade of off-white. Violation. Welcome at 2 inches too wide. Big violation. Brenda would creep up, tape measure in hand, right on my porch while I'm just sitting inside, coffee halfway to my lips, feeling like a contestant on some sad reality show. But you want to hear when things really went off the rails? It was the $150 fine for unauthorized street parking. My friend, who I hadn't seen in months, came over for lunch, parked on the public street. Public, mind you, for all of 4 hours and 15 minutes. Next day, there's a letter in my mailbox, cold and officious, basically billing me for having a social life. That was my breaking point. I was done paying for the privilege of being policed in my own home. 3 months and a lot of online listings later, I found my escape. 2 miles east, unincorporated county land. 3 glorious acres of nothing but grass, trees, and the sweet promise of never again arguing about mailbox color. I sold my Maple Ridge house, dumped every cent of equity into the new place, and built from the ground up. Permits, inspections, contractors, the whole 9 yards. After 5 years in HOA jail, I was basically allergic to rule breaking. Every I dotted, every T crossed. And yet Brenda Holloway did not believe in boundaries. Literally. She showed up the day they poured my foundation, her silver sedan lurking across the road, sunglasses on, staring like a hawk at my build site. She was there when the frame went up. She was there more often than some of the contractors. The first time my builder called saying a county inspector had stopped by but refused to show ID, I knew right away who it was. Brenda, in her self-appointed role as the ghost of HOA past, trying to spook my project. That's when Mason Edwards, my new neighbor, and his wife Linda dropped by with a casserole and a heads up. That woman's been parked out there watching your house all week. Something's not right about her, Mason said, shaking his head. He told me Brenda had pulled the same stunt a few years back, running another family out by filing endless complaints about a shed. Keep your paperwork handy, he warned. She's not finished with you. I wanted to believe I'd escaped her clutches. I wanted to unpack my boxes and let out the breath I'd held for 5 years. But Brenda, she just couldn't let go. Even as I settled into my new, regulation-free kingdom, her sedan would glide by at night, headlights cutting through the dark like a warning. She couldn't stand that someone had slipped out from under her thumb. The first real confrontation was almost cinematic. I'm unloading groceries, humming to myself, sun shining, when her sedan pulls up. She strides right on my property, clipboard and camera in hand, pretending she's there on county business. The audacity. This is MY land now. No HOA. No authority. She starts rattling off nonsense about setback violations, jotting things on her little sheet like she's the sheriff of rural nowhere. Brenda, I tell her, you have no business here. None. She gives me this frosty little smile. We'll see what the county has to say about that. And off she goes, back to her sedan, peeling away in a cloud of indignation and entitlement. But that was just the opening act. Brenda's harassment ramped up like she was rehearsing for a villain role on TV. Her car started showing up at all hours. Monday mornings, Friday evenings, she tracked my comings and goings, cataloged my guests, questioned my landscaper about my security system. I mean, what was she planning? A full-on heist or just a PowerPoint presentation for the next HOA meeting? And then the letters started. Anonymous, typed, always the same message. Your home is illegal. You can't run from the rules. We're watching. It was like a scene from a bad thriller, only it was my real life, and the antagonist was a 50-something woman with a grudge and too much time. The day Brenda knocked on my front door, demanding to inspect my home for code compliance, something in me snapped. There she was, face set, posture rigid, convinced of her own imaginary authority. You're not a county inspector, I told her. You have no legal standing. You don't belong here. Leave, or I'm calling the sheriff. She actually had the nerve to photograph my front door as she stormed away. The next week, letters started arriving, this time from Maple Ridge HOA itself. Apparently, Brenda was now so delusional she thought she could fine me for violations from 2 miles away. I called the HOA management, told them to lose my number, and then got busy. Security cameras up on every corner. Incidents logged. County permits triple-checked. I was ready. Then came the twist I didn't see coming. My own neighbor, Mason, came over one evening, looking unsettled. Linda saw Brenda talking to your landscaper, asking about your schedule, who visits you, what kind of security you have. It wasn't just harassment anymore. She was building a case, maybe even a false one. Mason told me about the last family Brenda drove out. Fake complaints, relentless pressure, until they packed up and left. That's when the official county letter landed in my mailbox. A complaint has been filed against your property. Suddenly, it's all very real. Code enforcement shows up, does a thorough inspection. I hand over every last scrap of paperwork. Permits, reports, even photos. The inspector shakes his head. Everything's perfect. Whoever filed this, they really went to town, making it sound credible. But Brenda didn't stop at one. She filed another, and another, hazardous waste, drainage issues, whatever she could invent. County inspectors came, found nothing. But each report felt like another brick in a wall she was building around my peace of mind. So I decided it was time to play offense. Drove down to the county office, filed a public records request. When the paperwork came back, there was both complaints signed with Brenda's own cell number. If she wanted to fight, she just handed me her weapon. Enter Brian Cox, my twist in this little saga. Property lawyer, seasoned veteran of HOA wars. I dumped the whole mess on his desk. The stalking, the letters, the fake reports. He leafed through it, calm as could be. Filing knowingly false reports is a crime, he said. You've got enough evidence for a cease and desist, and maybe a little more. He drafted the letter. Strict, official, not a word wasted. If Brenda made one more move, she'd be looking at criminal charges and a civil suit. Sent it certified mail. 3 days later, she fired back. Not at me, but at the entire neighborhood. A blast email to Maple Ridge, painting me as some rogue outlaw, begging them to rise up and defend the community from my perfectly legal 2 miles away house. It would have been funny if it weren't so unhinged. But then she took it further, petitioned the County Board of Supervisors, called for a public hearing, demanded my home be condemned. She dragged every neighbor who'd ever grumbled about a dandelion into her campaign, all to protect property values. I could almost admire the sheer commitment, if it wasn't aimed squarely at ruining my life. The county board meeting, now that was a show. You could smell the tension, everyone whispering, side-eyeing. Brenda strutted up first, papers in hand, voice smooth and righteous, spinning her web of lies. For a second, I wondered if maybe she'd win. The way the board leaned forward, the way she presented herself, so composed. But then the professionals took over. The county permit supervisor read out every fact, every permit, every inspection. The code enforcement officer laid out the results. No violations, no hazards, nothing. And then it was my turn. I didn't have to shout. I just stacked the evidence. Permits, inspection reports, security footage of Brenda trespassing, the anonymous letters, and finally, the public records request tying all those fake complaints to her phone. Linda, my neighbor, stood up and told the room about the months Brenda spent lurking, photographing, interrogating. When Brenda tried to defend herself, claiming a civic duty, the board chair cut her off. They weren't buying it. What happened next? Well, you know what they say about karma. The board ruled every permit and inspection was valid. No issues, no violations, end of story. But they didn't stop there. They referred Brenda for criminal investigation. Filing false reports, wasting government resources, that's a crime in these parts. Brenda's face went pale as they explained her options: fines, community service, a restraining order. The woman who ran Maple Ridge like a fiefdom suddenly found herself with exactly zero power, surrounded by neighbors who wouldn't even look at her. And just like that, the HOA turned. Residents voted her out in an emergency meeting. A quiet woman named Carol took over, sent me a formal apology, and announced stricter rules so this never happened again. Brenda tried to fight it, but nobody stood with her. Even her insurance company wouldn't help when I filed a civil suit. Harassment, emotional distress, abuse of process. Settled out of court. $15,000 and a written acknowledgement my house was legal and Brenda would never contact me again. After all that, I finally found peace. The silence of my land, the lack of drama in the mailbox, the sun rising over 3 acres that belonged, undeniably, to me. Mason said one night, most people would have just moved. That's what she was counting on. He was right. That's what bullies do. They don't expect you to fight back, just to give up and fade away. But sometimes the lesson life hands you, no matter how late, is that freedom isn't handed over. It's carved out, documented, defended with patience and facts. You can't run from people like Brenda, but you can outlast them. Funny thing is, a new family moved in my old house back in Maple Ridge. Within a week, they got their own violation notice. Wrong color on the mailbox flag. $50. Some things, it seems, never change. But I had changed. I'd learned to value peace, not just as the absence of trouble, but as the hard-won reward for refusing to be bullied. So, here's my question for you. Where do we draw the line between protecting a community and policing each other into misery? When does power become obsession? And is fighting back always worth it? Let me know. Share your stories, your thoughts on justice, your own run-ins with folks like Brenda. Because trust me, these battles may be exhausting, but sometimes standing your ground is the only way to really, truly come home.